Oops, where's my chat? That's weird. My chat. Yeah, hold on, let me get my chat back. Huh. Weird. My chat app is not working. What's going on here? Very odd. Alright, let me One second, let me get backup chat going on. Not sure what's going on with my chat app. Let me go to the YouTube video. I'll bring up the chat there. Your channel. There we go. Let's open this. Oh, here we go. Here's the chat. Okay. Let me get this in a pop out. Sorry. Normally, I have like a little app that brings in the chat for me, and for some reason, it doesn't want to open. So I had to use Chrome to bring it in. About the echo. Oh, there's an echo. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can fix the echo. Can you guys still hear me? Oops, cancel. Oh. Hey, the echo should be gone now. Okay. Let me see in the chat. Echo and buzz still. Still echo. Really? Oh. All right. Well, let's go for that. Oh. I think I know what I did. Okay. How's that? Is the echo gone? Is it still there? And okay, so the buzzing noise, I figured it out. I had to buy some new hardware, and it gets shipped today. So unfortunately, it didn't come before the live stream. So the buzzing sound, I'm sorry, guys. I'm very sorry. Okay. Okay, perfect. So the buzz and the echo are gone. Okay, cool. Sweet. There's probably still a little light crackle. Basically, I have a soundboard, and the soundboard is generating a buzz. It's like 10 years old now, and even if you mute all of the mics, the buzz is going through. And so, I ordered a new one. It shows up today, so hopefully that will fix that problem permanently. As a kind of a cool, this has nothing to do with Rapidweaver, but kind of a cool implementation is I have an app called Audio Hijack Pro, and essentially I'm filtering the noise out through the app. So I have the app bringing the audio in from my mic, and then the mixer board is adding that buzz, unfortunately, and then it's filtering out those noise, that buzz, and then it's creating like a virtual audio interface that I can then use inside Wirecast. So kind of techie geeky, but it's definitely not the best solution. There's still, I noticed when I did some tests yesterday, there's still some pops and whatnot, but it's so much better. But hopefully today, when my new soundboard, I got the Focusrite, for those of you know what that is. So anyway, cool. Sorry for the delay on that. Not sure what was going on. But okay, let's get to business. Hopefully now everybody can hear me and everything's good. Just for kicks, I just want to I did change some things in my setup. I just want to make sure you guys can still hear me when I'm sharing my desktop. So when I'm sharing my desktop, you guys can still hear me. By the way, this is my Wirecast app. Just let me know. While I'm sharing my desktop, do you guys people still hear me? Just waiting for a thumbs up because I don't want to start screen sharing later on and have audio issues. Oh, you can't hear me. Okay. Oh, you can. Okay, perfect. Sweet. Okay. So we're gonna party now. Let's go ahead and so today we're gonna be going over troubleshooting. Okay. And I have a list of kind of some common things that I see people have issues with. Some of these things will be very newbie stuff. Some of them will be a little bit more advanced, and some I'm going to gloss over because some troubleshooting things like going into the browser stuff can really be a huge rabbit hole that we go down, right? Hold on one second. By the way, it is my birthday, so thank you very much for all the birthday wishes. I appreciate that. And if you stay to the end, I have a nice surprise for everybody that watches the live stream today. So yeah, I'm gonna pull one of those things. If you gotta stay to the end and to get to the surprise. Okay. So remind me. Hopefully by the end, I'm not puckered out and totally forget you about my surprise. So yeah, remind me at the end. We will I'll get you guys a nice surprise for my birthday. So there we go. It's my birthday. But I'm going to give you something, guys. So stay to the end, okay? And, okay, so here we go. Troubleshooting Rapidweaver, okay? Let's go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Where's... Man, something's going on, like... What the hell? Rapidweaver doesn't want to load now. What is going on? There it goes. Whew. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is, I think, probably the most basic setting that I think a lot of people have issues with, okay? Especially if you're doing, if you're trying to implement Total CMS or something like that, or, a lot of like warehousing where you have to do URLs or embedding, like PDF embed even, okay? This is a very common issue. And what this is inside your general settings, your website address. Okay. This is probably the most basic thing, but you need to make sure you have your website address set. Okay. And it has to be the actual website address. Okay. I'm not going to go into all of like a www versus non-www rant. Okay. I have an entire live stream on that topic. Okay. But just really quick to let you know, let's open up Safari really quick, okay? For years, www.yourdomain.com was effectively understood to be the same as if you just went to domain.com. That is not the case anymore, okay? Same thing with HTTP versus the HTTPS. I strongly recommend that you always use HTTPS in your URL. Hopefully your hosting company will have that as an option for free. If your web hosting company wants to charge you for an SSL certificate to get HTTPS, run and go find a different hosting company. Okay, tip number 1, HTTPS on your website should be free. Okay, so with that done, HTTPS is not an option anymore. You have to use it. You should be using it. If you care about SEO, Google will actually dock you if your site doesn't use HTTPS. Okay, so if we go to Weaver Space right now, if I just type in weavers.space in my browser, okay, hit enter, what you'll notice here, okay, let me turn on this little doodad here, okay, what you'll notice here is that the URL is actually, even though I typed in weavers.space, I automatically added www to my URL. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you're using to go to Weaver Space. I made the decision that it'll always redirect to www. Now, maybe you've heard me give talks in the past where I said ditch the www. Okay, for a long time I was against www. I was like, hey, it's 2020, let's ditch www, we don't need it. Well, then why am I using www on Weaver Space? Because I'm a hypocrite. No, it's mostly for branding. So Weaver Space, it's not a .com. So if you just saw the term weavers.space somewhere, you'd have no idea that it was actually a website. So that's why, from a branding perspective, I decided to keep the www for Weaver Space. Okay, so that way it's always www.weaverspace, so that you kind of see it and people know that that is a website. Because when you put www in front of something, people understand no matter what that suffix is, whatever the TLD in the domain is. It's always, they'll understand it to be a website. But I'm getting off on a tangent there. We need to make sure that no matter what you type in here, you always get redirected to the same URL. Okay, so if you're going to visit a website in the browser using www, you need to make sure that you have www set here in the website address. Okay, then on top of that, you need to make sure that you add rules to your htaccess file so that all the redirects will work. Okay, and the quickest way to get tips for that, if you go to actually Greg Barchard, Chili Dog himself, Weaver.tips, has a really great resource here called Weaver.tips. I think he's still updating these. So if you go here and just type htaccess, okay, you'll see a few different htaccess rules. This is the one to force www. Here is a rule to force non-www, and here is a rule to force SSL. Okay, so yeah, click on that, and he has the htaccess rules right here for you. You could just copy paste, obviously modify the example.com to be whatever you want. But yeah, I even references these because I know they're there, and he did a great job in this interface. It's just really simple and really clean. And yeah, copy paste, modify the little code snippet there, and put that in your htaccess file. Okay, I have an entire live stream on htaccess files as well. You can actually now you can actually modify those or manage those inside Rapidweaver, which is kind of cool. So if you go into your publishing setup, it's been a while since I did here, edit htaccess file, right? So you can edit your htaccess file, and then you can actually manage it all within Rapidweaver, which is pretty cool. Okay, so here you'll see this is in my sandbox server. I have some rules in here, so you can paste that in there, and you should be good to go. And what's cool about doing it through Rapidweaver, Rapidweaver actually kind of like version control all your changes to your htaccess file, which is kind of cool as well. So if you want to learn more about that, check out the live stream I've done on htaccess files, as well as the dub versus no dub live streams that I've done as well. Okay. Now, I do get a question sometimes. You notice inside your publishing settings, there is a setting here for website address. Okay. What is the difference between this setting and this setting in the general settings in your project? Okay. So over here in general, and then you also have it in publishing settings. So essentially, the default value will be whatever you set inside general. And then whatever, if you place a setting here inside your publishing settings, it'll override general. Now, the reason for that is if you know Rapidweaver, you can actually add multiple publishing destinations. Maybe that could be a good live stream, like maybe some, some interesting use cases for why you would want multiple publishing destinations. But let's say you were publishing it to a test server and your live production server, right? You can have multiple destinations, and obviously the website address to those destinations will be different. So let's say I was publishing this to my test server. I can then override the default website address and put that here. Okay, so that's a cool little tip there. Franco, you said you have an interesting problem last evening, seeing a chat at the beginning. I'm not going to be going over general questions here during the live stream, so if you have general questions, go ahead and post on the Weaver Space community, and I'll help you out there, Franco. Okay, thanks. Cool. So there we go. Next on the list. So that was, again, general website address. Okay, stuff. Next is if you're using stacks that use PHP, okay, triple check your PHP version on your server. Okay. And every hosting company is kind of different. If you log into your cPanel, you should be able to control the version of PHP that is running. Now, as of right now, if we go to, let's open up Safari really quick. I always have to Google this URL. There we go. I should have like this bookmarked. Okay, so this is from PHP, the official supported versions of PHP. Okay, and as you can see right now, only version 7.3, it's under security fixes only. 7.4 and version 8 are officially supported by the PHP Software Foundation. Okay, I definitely recommend that you have at least 7.4 on all your websites. Okay. I know some users are still, their hosting companies still have them at PHP 5.6. If you just go from 5.6 to 7.4, like you will see an exponential growth in speed. Okay, so that's something you should always make sure you're on PHP 7.4. And recently, I have made sure that all my stacks are supported on PHP 8. So if you're at least using my stacks, it should work great if you're using PHP 8. Obviously, I can't. There were some breaking changes in PHP 8 that a developer might have to update. So if you're using some other PHP-based stacks, it's possible that they might not work on PHP 8. It's possible. Not saying that they won't, because it just depends on what the stack is doing. Okay. As of last week, probably if you have a number of my stacks, I shipped like 50 updates last week for jQuery 3 and PHP 8 support. And yeah, all my stacks should work great in PHP 8. So if you want to go ahead and go straight to 8.0 as of right now, feel free to do so. Okay. Now, how can you determine what version of PHP you're running? Okay. That is a great question. Okay. And so first off, again, if you go to your hosting company, you'll see that in the cPanel. Unfortunately, every cPanel and every hosting company is going to be different, so I can't necessarily teach you how to do that. But I do have a stack that can help you out with that. So if you go ahead and I have a free stack called Server Info if you really need it. It's just a really simple stack that you can add to the page. And if you preview it, you'll see that it shows you a bunch of information about your server. Okay. And here now, if you preview it inside Rapidweaver, you'll see the version of PHP that Rapidweaver uses. Okay. Now, the latest version of Rapidweaver, version 8.9, shipped with its own internal version of PHP, which is awesome. Super great feature of Rapidweaver 8.9. Okay. I've wished Rapidweaver did this a long time ago. Okay. But yeah, Rapidweaver ships its own version of PHP now, so we can make sure that we're on the latest and greatest, which is 7.4, which is really cool. Okay. Now, if you publish this page, let's just go ahead. I'll publish this page now. Okay. So if you publish this page, it'll actually when you visit that web page, it'll actually tell you what version of PHP is on your server. Okay, so you can go ahead and if I just go to my sandbox site, wham, we'll see that on my server here, I'm running PHP 8.01. Okay, now you obviously don't want to have this information like permanently published, okay, because there's a lot of server configurations here, and it gives you a bunch of gobbledygook. Okay, so yeah, if you do publish this, just remove it and publish it again, because you definitely don't want this up permanently online. Okay, and that's why we see this huge error, or red text at the top saying remove the stack and republish. Okay, so yeah, if you're curious on what your PHP version is, this is a good free stack that allows you to do that. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and publish that, delete it, and republish my page. Now, some other ways to do this, if you're using Total CMS, I have a cool little debug tool for Total CMS that allows you to, that gives us some information about your PHP version without showing all your server configurations like this. And you can add the debug stack to your, let's finish this publishing. Oh man, it's deciding to republish everything. Okay, fun times. Okay, we go ahead and in Total CMS, there is a debug stack. Okay, so you can just add debug to the page, and if you preview this, hopefully it should work. There we go. So if you add the debug stack to your page and preview, what shows up here is all the data about your server. Okay. So if you're troubleshooting Total CMS, this is a great first place to start, the debug stack. Okay, and also on top of that, you can actually let's close this. You can actually go ahead and add Cms Log as well if you add that, and let's preview that. Okay, what this will do is it shows you and if this actually run some checks on your server, and it will actually display some error messages in red if it found anything that like it knows is really, really bad. Like maybe a particular module is not installed, or you're running a really old version of PHP. It will suggest that you upgrade, things of that nature. Okay, but you see here, it tells us that we have PHP version 8, some other document root stuff. Some other things that are good here is this post max size and upload max file size. A lot of times that is, if you have issues uploading a large file, chances are this is a problem. Okay. Or if you have max execution time is another good one. A lot of times what this has is, let's say you have a really slow connection, okay, and you're trying to upload a file, and a lot of times the max execution time is set to 30 seconds by default. So if maybe a file is taking longer than 30 seconds to upload, a server could potentially cut that connection and stop the file from uploading. Okay, so here, these are a couple good server configurations to know. What is the maximum size for a upload? Okay, and then what is the max execution time? Both are good to know. Next is you can see here what Total CMS version is on your server. Okay, and then here you can see the status of your Total CMS license for this website. Okay, so we see my domain is registered and I'm not in trial. Okay, and lastly, this is the output of the cms.log. So if there are any potential errors, that you're having, you could potentially see those errors here. Okay, so that's something that we can see, and a lot of times, I'll ask for this information if there are some odd issues going on, okay, with the CMS. Okay, while we're on the topic of PHP and kind of looking for errors, okay, if you're using Total CMS, this is a great place to see. Okay, it does add a lot of errors in here, but there are potentially more errors. If it's a very fundamental error, they might not show up here. Okay, so if the server crashed, maybe there's a syntax error or something like that going on. A lot of times when there are other places. Let's say, let me go onto I'm going to FTP onto my server. Yes, Total CMS Debug Stack. So it is under Total CMS Admin. It's called Debug. Or the Server Info Stack. Correct, Gary. So those are two stacks. And Server Info it's just a freebie on my website. Okay. And the Debug Stack it requires you actually have Total CMS published to your server in order for that to work. Okay, let me head on to my server. Hopefully I think I have some errors showing up here. So if let's just see. What was I debugging? I was debugging something inside here. It's going to show up here. Here. Darn it. Where was I debugging something? Nope, it's not showing up there either. Okay. Well, let's say let's say we're going to my website. And let's go to sandbox.jokernet/blog. Okay. And let's say for when I went to this web page, maybe the web page was completely blank. Oops. That's weird. What's going on here? Did I do something? Sure, a blog exists on here. Sorry for my messy server. That is really funky. I even republished this homepage and it's acting weird. Let's republish that. Make sure this is set to be blog. Yeah, /blog. That is super weird. Man, gremlins are out in full force today. What's going on here? Maybe I have some connectivity issues on my server? Man, such a simple thing. Darn technology. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on with my sandbox server, but let's just continue on. Let's say I went to a web page and that web page was blank, or maybe even just partial of the website is blank, right? Let's say only half the page is getting printed. Okay. A lot of times that is a warning sign of a PHP server crash. Okay. And a lot of times what you'll do is if you go to the page, to the folder of the page on your server, okay, a lot of times there will be a file called error_log. Okay. So here, I'll just create a new file just to kind of show you. It'll look like this. Okay. So that file will most of the time be inside the directory of the web page in question that has the issue. Okay. So in this case, let's say I was having an issue with my blog page. Okay. If I went into this directory, I could potentially see an error_log. And that's just a plain text file, and it'll contain errors that will give us clues as to what could be going on. Okay. So there we go. That was all I wanted to kind of show you. And yeah, some reason my test server seems to be going down. So that has to do with error.log. Next up, let's see, I did the, see, did that. PHP version, but okay. Next up, to kind of show you, if you are having, this is another while we're in PHP world, okay. It is a lot of times if you preview a page, okay, let's say I preview this page. Man, what is going on with my gremlins? Are definitely attacking me today. They're attacking my Rapidweaver. Okay. Let's say I preview this page and I had some sort of error showing up here. Okay. Here, actually, I'm going to generate a false error right now just for fun. Okay. I'm going to chuck this on the page and I'm just going to do this. Some bad code. Let's say I preview the page and I get this. Okay. Or something similar to that. Okay. So preview is completely busted now. What the heck's going on? But we can kind of see that it's like index.php line 70. And let's say you wanted to know a little bit more about that, right? And it's saying that it's expecting a semicolon or a comma. It's expecting something and it's not there. And maybe you were like, I don't know, what the heck is this? How can we see what line 70 is? Now you could export this and then try to look at line 70, but the quicker way is, by default, this isn't in your Rapidweaver toolbar. There is a view code button. So if you go view and then you can do view source, okay? What I do is I just customize my toolbar and I add that view code button here, okay? So if you click on view code, you can actually see this is the code that's generated, okay, inside preview. And if we go ahead and look at line 70, I think it was line 70 it said, right? We can see right before line 70 is my bad PHP code, right? So this view source is pretty good. It's useful if you want to kind of peruse through and maybe troubleshoot some PHP stuff on your own if you're familiar with that, okay? So there we go. Now, I'll go into some other advanced kind of PHP stuff with Rapidweaver as well, which is kind of cool. If we go view and then web server logs, okay? Sometimes, at least stuff for preview, errors can show up here as well. Okay, this particular one, it's like, this is a really bad, this is like a compile error, so it won't show up here. But if there are some runtime errors and whatnot, they'll show up here. Okay, and so yeah, web server logs. And what's kind of interesting is that actually there's this open doc root button here as well. So if you click on that, this is useful to me every now and then, okay? It will open up the folder and finder where your preview files are. So like if you really want to dive into, like these are all the files that are getting served up by Rapidweaver preview. So it's kind of like a local published version and it's like buried way inside some folder in your Mac, right? But yeah, that's a very useful thing that I use every now and then. I'm very glad Rapidweaver has this because it helps me sometimes. This might not help a majority of you, but hey, we're talking about some cool tips and I thought this was a good one. So here, web server logs, they can show you some, this is going to be, again, PHP errors, some PHP errors, right? And then if you open doc root, you can open actually the published files that Rapidweaver is actually using during preview. That's some cool stuff. Okay. I kind of started with the advanced stuff. I probably should have started with a lot of this PHP stuff later on, because now we're going to go into some more simple everyday things. Okay. And it would have been great if I created some sort of, solution that, a workable error that we can troubleshoot live. Sadly, I didn't do that. I was kind of busy this morning, but what are some things that we can do? Let's say I have a problem on this page, okay, and I don't know what the heck it is, okay? I don't know what's going on. I've done a ton of things, and maybe let's say my menu isn't working, or something is styled improperly. Okay. The first thing that we need to do is simplify. Okay. So what we can do is, what I recommend you do is, if you have a page that has a ton of stacks on the page, let's look at this page here. It has a ton of stacks on the page, right? What I recommend you do is, in order to troubleshoot something, duplicate the page, okay? And then just start deleting things. You delete something, you refresh the page, and you preview, and you see if the error is still there. Right? And Rapidweaver's not sure what's going on in preview. I think it's because my my server is has some issues. Oh, I still have that code on there. I thought I deleted that. I deleted that code. There it goes. That's weird. Okay. So so what you do is you duplicate a page. Okay. And you just start deleting things that you know have nothing to do with the error. Okay. So you just start deleting stacks from the page, like entire containers of stacks. Okay? And then you just delete some stacks. Preview, is the error still there? Okay, well, guess what? Keep deleting stacks. Preview. Process of elimination is a amazing troubleshooting step. And it's something that I do all the time as well. And because this is a duplicated page, you don't need to be worried about, deleting work, because you've duplicated the page first. And now you can just do whatever you want. You can just delete stuff and then keep previewing until you find the problem. Okay. Now, let's say you find the problem. Let's say it's this block grid. Okay. For some reason. Okay. Another thing is, let's say, especially with stacks with lots and lots of settings, maybe you've changed 20 settings. And okay, you've kind of narrowed it down to this block grid stack. Okay. What I recommend you do is go ahead and add a new instance of that stack to the page, and then try to replicate the problem. Okay. A lot of times starting with default settings of a stack, because obviously, stacks work out of the box. At least, they should. Okay. And maybe it's just some weird combination of settings that you're having issues with. Okay. So the next step is, once you've isolated down to something, try to figure it out by adding a new instance to the page and then rebuilding that stack or that layout so that you can figure out what's going on. And I'll be honest here. A lot of times when you do that, when you actually rebuild something, you actually end up not having the problem at all, right? Because a lot of times you rebuild it with a new frame of mind, and a lot of times you fix the problem. Because a lot of times I know that, especially if we're not certain what a setting does, and we're just trying to fix something. So we're just randomly selecting stacks and like changing settings that we don't really understand what they are, but we're just changing the setting. And a lot of times the settings maybe don't make sense. Maybe it's conflicting. But when you go back and then you re-implement it, because you know what you've done that kind of worked, then a lot of times things will work. Okay. So, process of elimination, duplicate the page, and just start deleting stuff. Okay. Huge benefit there. And then once you've isolated a problem, let's try to simplify that by adding a new instance and replicating that problem again. Okay. And I fully agree that I am not perfect. There are definitely bugs throughout my stacks. I'm not, there will be bugs, but a lot of the times, most of the time, it's not a bug. Most of the time, it's probably either maybe a conflict or maybe using some settings wrong. And maybe that is a bug. Maybe, if you found these two settings conflict, let me know. And maybe some things I can fix and some things I can't. I don't know, right? But definitely try replicating the bug in its most simple form, okay? By simplifying your page and having less things on the page, okay? Because then we can really focus on what the problem is and help us determine quicker what the actual problem on the web page is. Hopefully that makes sense. I do have to say that Andrew Tavanor, Big White Duck, did an amazing talk at the summit a few years ago. So if you have access to that, you can just go to summit.weavers.space, log into your account, and watch his talk on troubleshooting. And he kind of goes through this process of elimination a little bit more in depth and how to simplify to locate your issues. So check that out. It was a great talk. Okay. Next up is I want to go over some browser debugging things as well. Okay. Let's delete. I'm going to delete this page here. I'm going to remove that. Maybe I can artificially generate some bugs here so that we can kind of see. Okay. But let's say in a web page. Okay. I'm going to be talking about the developer inspector now, and if you hit Option Command I, that will open it up. Okay. And inside here, if there were any browser errors, you would see them in the console. Okay. For fun, let's go ahead and let's do a contact form. I'm going to add a contact form to this. Let's go ahead and extract that. And hold on 1 second. Okay. Let's make this fail. All right, I'm going to publish this just as is. This should fail once I publish it to my server. Let's see. Actually, hold on. Let's cancel that. Let's put in my email, and then we'll publish. Roy, while this is publishing, Roy said Sublime Text is a good tool for editing code. Yes, it is. I use Sublime Text for years. Whoops, what did I do there? And now I use an app called Nova from Panic. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and let's go to Sandbox. Oh, Jesus. All right, there we go. This form doesn't look pretty. Obviously I have, but anyway, we just want to submit this. Let's just do Joe Workman test at test.com. Hello. Okay, and I'm going to submit this. And oh wow, my server is awesome because it worked apparently. I expected that to not work. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna make this completely bomb. I'm not even gonna put a valid from address. Okay, let's publish that. Here, I'm just gonna say to address Joe. I'm not even gonna have a valid email address. Oops, that was weird. Publish page. All right, let's republish this. So I deleted the valid from and the valid to email address. So this should totally fail. While we're talking about sending email forms, a common thing with emails that I get when forms fail, the first thing is check your PHP version. So make sure you're on PHP 7.4 or PHP 8. Okay. And that's one thing. The next is make sure that the from address, it needs to have the same domain as your domain. Okay. So for some reason it worked on my server. I think it's just because I have a really old server that probably predates a lot of these security protocols. basically, if the domain of the from email is different than the domain of the published website, most hosting companies, it will fail. Okay, so you need to make sure that this from address here, okay, so again, this from address here, you need to make sure that the domain of the email matches the domain of the website. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and test this again. All right, let's do submit. Okay, good. Boom, it failed. Okay, so the form failed. Why did it fail? Okay, so if you notice, a lot of times you'll see this and you'll see form failed. Why did it fail? Okay, so if you open up the Dev Inspector, you'll see up here, you'll see that they have a little warning and error symbols to kind of tell you, because by default it opens up in this view. You'll see that there are warnings and errors. If you click on that, you can actually go and see the errors here. Okay, and in Foundation, I try to provide as much as I can. So here we see the response system error, invalid address. Okay, so there we go, right? And that's pretty, it telling us that there's an invalid address here, right? And that's because obviously I did that on purpose here. I put the bad email address there. But this is a great way to see what errors are happening on the page, to see why forms aren't submitting. Now, this is true of forms, but it's true of a lot of other things. Let's say you have some sort of slider or some JavaScript effect on the page that isn't working. Okay, a lot of times if you go to the error console, and by default it just shows errors. If we click all here, we can see all errors and warnings. If you notice here, this warning was field name email is invalid, and that's because when I typed this in, I didn't type in a full email address first. That's what that warning was. But if you look here, you'll see any sort of errors that are going on the page. Okay, and some of these, like in the Foundation one, if you expand it out, you can kind of see what the error is. Some of them aren't as nice as this. Some of them are definitely going to be more cryptic and probably something that maybe that is way over your head. Okay, but at least have a peek, right? It doesn't hurt looking and trying to see if it's something that is obvious that you can potentially fix yourself. Okay, so really good tip there. Just go ahead, check here for errors, especially with forms. And a lot of times with the forms, it'll give you some sort of human readable error that you can then probably fix yourself. If it's not a valid address, it will be labeled as spam. Well, in this case, it won't even the email never even got sent, right? So yeah. So, but yes, you have a valid point. If you use a no reply email address like I did here, has nothing to do with troubleshooting a form or whatnot. That's just trying not to get into the spam folder. I just used this. I knew it was a form was an easy example that I could break really simple. So I just wanted to show you how you guys can look for errors in the browser console. And a lot of times, if you expand them out, you can potentially fix those yourself. Okay, I'm not saying every time, but at least maybe it'll give you a hint onto, by looking at the error, maybe you'll know what stack is on the page potentially is having the issue. And then you can either contact that developer or, delete that stack and go through that process of elimination troubleshooting that we went over earlier. Okay. Okay, so that has to do with console errors. Maybe one day I should do a more full in-depth tutorial on how to, leverage and get the most out of the Dev Inspector. We'll go into a little bit more today. Okay. Obviously, hopefully you've seen me use this part of the inspector throughout many videos, and this is how you can kind of, inspect elements on the page. And over here, you can see the styles. Okay. And probably I'll review that. I'm going to skip over that right now. Maybe we'll review that in a little bit. Okay. We just kind of went over the console, and that is where you can see errors and things on the page. Okay. Sources. This is where you can browse through all of the assets loaded onto a page. Okay. And if there are any errors in a JavaScript file, they'll be labeled here as well. Okay. I use this all the time to help debug my scripts, because this is probably none of you will ever go into this, but you can actually click on this and then you can like have the web browser break at a particular point. Like for example here, let's just go ahead and I'm going to add a little breakpoint in this part of my code, and I'm going to refresh the page. Okay. And if I ever go ahead and there we go. So this was the show loop event in my upcoming Magnifico stack. And by hovering over this images, it'll run this function. And I told the browser to stop. So it stopped right there. So then I can maybe do some more debugging and whatnot. This is probably 99.9% of you will never have to know what that is or any of what I just said. But that's what this is all for. Okay. The next tab is networking. This kind of just another way of seeing your resources. Okay. This XHR tab. If you have any form submissions or any sort of AJAX requests, kind of like network requests in the backgrounds, they'll all show up here. Okay. And if for any of these requests, if you click on them, you can kind of see like all the raw details of all this stuff. Most of you, this probably won't be too useful, but yeah, it's interesting sometimes to kind of see this. You can kind of see, the sizes. If you want to see the size, what's the size of a particular element. If you close this, you can kind of see now if you see this in transfer size where it says memory, this really has nothing to do with troubleshooting. I'm just going down this big, huge rabbit hole that I told myself I wasn't going to. If you see where it says memory here, it's because this particular file was loaded from cache. It wasn't actually downloaded from your server. Okay. So that's a way of kind of seeing what assets are actually downloaded and which ones are cached. Okay. If we go to timelines, I'm not even going to try to go into that. Storage, we'll skip that too. We're going to skip the rest of these because these are all like very esoteric things. So anyway, what I wanted to do last today, because I know a lot of us are using Foundation 6, okay, is to help us troubleshoot styles of things, okay? And I know I've kind of gone over this a little bit in the past, but, Safari has actually changed some things in the inspector. What the heck? And how come it's not opening? There it goes. Mac is behaving really badly. I'm going to turn off this little cursor thing. Okay. So I'm going to make this really big. And here I'm going to increase the size of the text so you guys can see it a little bit better. So over here on the left side, okay, is all of your HTML that is generated by Rapidweaver and Stacks, okay? And this little target tool is very useful, okay? So if you right click on any element, apparently, I don't know, my right click isn't working too great. If you click on this target tool, you can then use it to hover over any element on the page. And man, something is wonky. Let me do that again. Let's delete that form. Let's do this again. Okay. There we go. Okay. So here I can use this little target tool. You can right click. These images are to have right click disabled. But you can right click on anything. You can say inspect element. Okay. And that should take you to that button. So again, you can right click on any specific thing and say inspect element in the browser in the right click menu, and it will highlight that particular item inside the HTML code. Another way is to use this little target tool, and then at that point you can kind of hover over anything on the page and locate exactly what you want. Okay, so let's look at these buttons here. And then obviously you can click on here and it'll highlight that item in the browser above. Okay. And when you click on it, it'll actually change the styles over here to show you the styles of that particular element. Okay. So let's look at this particular loop grow button. Okay. This button right here. What are these two panes over here on the right side? These are extremely valuable for helping troubleshoot styles of things. Okay. Let's say that I thought this button should have a blue background. Okay. And for some reason it's showing up white. Why is that? Okay. So this pane here shows you all of the CSS that is getting applied to the selected element. And it's not only that, it's actually the order in which they're getting applied. So it goes from the top. So the ones on the very bottom are getting applied first, and the ones further up on the list get applied last. Okay, and those are the ones that win. Let's make this a little bit wider so we can see it. Okay. And what's kind of cool is a lot of these styles that it'll tell you what CSS file that's coming from, and you can see the actual CSS selectors that are getting used, and then you can see the actual code. Okay, and what's cool is you can actually turn on and off styles. Right, so if you're like, you know what, I want to turn this off, and look, by turning that particular style off, you can see what changes happen on the page. Now let's do that again. I'm going to turn that back on. Look how these styles are rounded, how the buttons are rounded. If I turn that off, look, they're not round anymore. Or they're less rounded. Okay? So pretty cool. Yeah, in these, you can just turn off all kinds of stuff. Now, some things you'll notice changes, and some things you might not notice changes. And the reason is, if you notice here, like for example, this style right here. Okay, that style. We have color, and then it has this color, hex color code. It's crossed out. That's because whenever you see a rule crossed out, that means that it is getting overridden by a rule further up in the list. So here we have color and a hex color code. If we scroll up, look, here we have color, and it's using the primary color in Foundation. Okay, now this is probably new to some of you. Foundation 6 uses something called Css Variables or Css Custom Properties. They're both the same thing. And so this is using a variable of primary, and if you click on the little equal sign, it'll tell you what that color is currently set to. So he's using a variable called primary that currently has the value of this blue, and that's the exact blue that's getting applied. Okay? So if I were to turn that off, it's actually going to be the same exact color, but so yeah, that's pretty cool. That's what that var is. It's using a variable. Okay? And again, you can just turn off any style that you want just by clicking on these checkboxes. Now, if you're curious on if you want to see what all the variables are that are applied to this element, if you scroll all the way down, start going further down, right here, you'll see that these are all the variables that are currently applied and their values. So here's all the variables that Foundation 6 creates, and then all their particular values. And these are created by swatches and by site styles. Okay? So it's just a way of centralizing a particular value. Okay? And so if you see here that like this particular value, in this one, it's actually overriding the radius variable and setting it to be 5,000. Okay? So that's what again, this pane right here, this middle pane, it's a list of all the styles getting applied. And if you see anything crossed out, it's because that particular style gets overridden further up. Now, what is this over here on the left side? Okay. This allows us to see everything that is currently actively applied. So it's kind of a different way of viewing the same data. Okay. So here it's all the available CSS properties and its current value. And if you expand down, you can see all the rules that make up this particular value. So if we go to, let's look at color. Okay. You can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possible values that could affect the color of this element. And it's this last one that kind of wins. And what's kind of interesting is you can go ahead and if you click on any of these, it'll actually take you to that part of the code in the CSS file if you want to see that, which is interesting. Okay. I don't use that too often, but this view here is good to see what all the values are applied, are the current active styles applied to an element. Okay. This box up here, it shows you all the margins, the borders, the padding, and the actual width and height of the content. So this button here is 61 pixels by almost 12 pixels. It has a padding of 10 pixels and 12 pixels. It has a border of 1 pixel all the way around, as well as border radiuses of 5,000. There's no margins. Well, it actually has a right margin of -1 and a bottom margin of 1. And then there's no position values, right? So this kind of shows you all the box model of a particular element. Now what's cool here is I spent a lot of time here. If you ever see me troubleshoot styles on the Hangouts or in this live stream, you can modify this stuff, right? So like, let's say I wanted to just modify this to be red. Okay, look. I just changed that to be red. So this color value, I changed it from being var primary to just red. If you look, all that text is red. And I can turn that on and off, right? You can, and if you go to the style attributes up here, you can do all kinds of stuff. Like you can do background purple, okay? And you can do bang important. Oops, important. There we go. And if you do the style attribute, it only affects that one. Okay. So like if I were to change these values down here, the CSS here will apply everything that this selector selects. Okay. But this style attribute here will only apply that style to the one. It's essentially the same thing as like adding that CSS to the HTML. Okay. And again, this can be turned on and off. And this is all temporary, right? If I just refresh this page, all that's gone. Okay, so you don't need to be worried. You can play around. You can turn stuff on and off in here. You can play around. You can say, what will this look like if I, put a border color, oops, of, I don't know, orange. Okay, and there you go. That's what the button would look like if the color, the border color was orange, right? So you don't need to be scared about turning things on and off here. You can play. You're not going to hurt anything. It's just modifying the instance of this in the browser. Refresh your browser, everything's gone. Okay, so yeah, very, very powerful. Other things that are kind of cool is you can go ahead and you can like test classes in here, right? You can edit all these. Like, let's say if you're a Foundation 6 user, we can do here on this button here. I can do like I don't know, BG : black. Okay, and that didn't work, did it? Probably because there's another thing that's overwriting it, maybe. Let's do like color black. Oh, here we'll just be like shadow. There we go. If you notice, I put the shadow class in there, and that particular button has a shadow now. Now, obviously, for a button group, you don't want one button to have a shadow. It would look kind of retarded, right? But there you go. You can edit this HTML. You can even delete an entire thing. Like if you're like, what would it look like if I deleted that button? Well, there you go. What happens if all I did is I selected the button, I hit the backspace on my keyboard, you can delete it. And you can delete all kinds of stuff on the page, right? I deleted that entire button group. And again, it's just temporary. So I can refresh and now it's gone. Now it's back. Okay. So yeah, play around with the Dev Inspector. It's super useful, especially if you really want to learn how to apply styles. Learning, just playing around with this is very useful. Okay. Okay, someday the whole segment using DevTool will be amazing. Yes. Okay, it would be good to identify the CSS selector. Yes. So a lot of times, if you wanted to know, like, let's say you wanted to target this particular button here, okay, and you wanted to affect the radius, okay. You can see that this is a selector that you could use to target this button, right? So dot button group rounded dot button could affect a border radius. So you can use this to help you figure out selectors. Obviously, with those you can use classes and you create your own class to apply to something. But yes, this is a good way of learning what selectors you could potentially use as well to target something. And what's kind of cool is if you were to hover over this selector, if you notice I have this selector hover, everything that applies to this selector is getting highlighted in the view, right? So I hover over this selector and everything that is applied is highlighted. Super useful, right? Whereas if I hover over this particular selector, look, this particular selector is targeting the first buttons in the group. Okay. And if we go over here, this one's targeting all of them. That one's targeting all of them, right? So yeah, super useful, right? You can hover over these and you can see exactly what selector that is getting applied to throughout the page. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. Where do you see the name of the file on the left? I'm not sure what you're talking about. The name of the file on the left. But that was pretty much what I had for you guys today. Loads of functions in the dev panel that wasn't aware of every day. Yes. So that was pretty much what I had for you guys today. Hopefully you guys learned maybe a couple little tips and tricks here and there, even for advanced users. Sorry I started off with this PHP stuff. I probably should have done that stuff last. But hopefully it was interesting. But just a quick recap, okay? Website address. Okay, make sure you're using www or not. Don't use both. Okay, make sure you have htaccess rules to always force one or the other, and always force HTTPS. Okay. Check your PHP version. Make sure that it's set to 7.4 or 8.0 right now. I think those are the only two versions you should be using right now. Okay. If you have any problems, all my stacks should work. If you have any problems, contact me or developer of any stack that you think might be having conflicts with those PHP versions. Hopefully, they can get that working. Okay. Ways of determining my server info stack, which is free. Total CMS Debug Stack, super useful for helping debugging, Total CMS issues. Okay, especially with server-side stuff. It'll give you maybe your host doesn't have a particular extension installed or something like that. Very common. Okay. General troubleshooting inside Rapidweaver. Simplify. Duplicate the page. Start deleting stuff until you isolate the problem. Once you've isolated the problem, try rebuilding it with a default instance of that stack again and seeing if you can figure out what settings are causing the problem. Or maybe it's a conflict between two different stacks on the page, right? So really good stuff. Reverting to the default settings is a very useful thing, right? Because it gets you rethinking about how settings are used and what you apply. And a lot of times just rethinking and refactoring, and from developer speak, it's called refactoring. A lot of times I'll get a piece of code working, and then I'll go back and be like, okay, how can I optimize this, right? So we can refactor the page. If you have access to the Summit talks, check out Tab's talk on troubleshooting from a couple years ago. And then lastly, all the browser console stuff. Don't be scared to test that out. Play around. You can turn styles on and off, as you saw. Really useful stuff. Okay. And lastly, thank you guys for all the birthday wishes. I promised you something cool. So if you go to my store now, and I'm giving anyone that watches the stream today, okay, 41% off. I am 41 years old today. So you get 41% off anything you want. Just use the discount code BDAY41. So BDAY41. Get 41% off anything you want in my store. And that is only going to be for people that attended the live stream or, watch the replay today. So that code will expire. And if it expires, sorry, done. You were too late. Okay. So yeah, BDAY41. You can get 41% off anything right now. So on Weaver, just go to Weaver Space, Foundation Stacks, Total CMS, Font Pro. Oh man, so much great ones. So yeah, 41% off anything. Actually, while I'm here, let me show the new Magnifico. You probably saw it a little bit, right? But maybe get some feedback from you guys. I'll probably be shipping this maybe next week, probably. This isn't available on the store yet. So yeah, this is called Magnifico. It is an image loop tool. Yeah, it's pretty nice. So this particular instance, you can drag around with your mouse. And then there's an instance here where it follows the mouse. So I'm not dragging, it's actually following the mouse as I just move. And as you see, this particular one, if I hover over it, it stays there. You can have external controls, so you can make the loop bigger, you can shrink it. You can toggle it on and visible with buttons. You can have a button that just hides it, a button that shows it. And then also you can zoom in the loop as well. Okay. So you can zoom in and zoom out in the loop tool. There's also some keyboard shortcuts. If you double click, it'll show and hide the loop. And then if you'd use the arrow keys, you can either make the loop bigger or you can zoom in and zoom out. So if you, go here, let's find these people over here, and you're like, I want to see this guy more, I can zoom in a little bit, and voila, right? You can zoom out, and then, yeah. So all with keyboards, and you can make it bigger, smaller, all with the arrow keys. Pretty cool stuff. So hopefully you enjoy a loop. It'll probably come out, like I said, next week. I'll probably ship that out next week. It's pretty much done. I'm going to make a swatch for it for Foundation 6. So that you can apply it to any images on the page, maybe even galleries. No promises there. I haven't tested that yet, but it sounds pretty cool. So yeah, cool stuff. Hopefully everyone, let's see. What are some of your favorites in the chats? What are some of the things if you man, if you don't have this particular stack, you should go get it, right? What are some cool ones? I'll tell you some of my favorites. If you're curious. So let's go to Weaver Space. What are some of my favorites of my stacks? Okay. Obviously, Foundation 6, Total CMS, those are amazing. So I think those are great. I just shipped a really cool update to Target today. Target's a really great stack. Agent, SEO Helper, 2 super useful stacks that I think most people can get use out of. Let's see, what are some other good ones? PageSafe is a no-brainer. If you need videos on your site from YouTube or Vimeo, Video Wall I think is a must-have. It's just super great. Let's see, Superflex, that's a nice one. Screens, I've seen a resurgence of screens actually. A bunch of screen sites been getting published lately, which is kind of cool to see. If you don't have call to action, I think that is maybe one of my most underrated stacks in terms of. I probably need to promote it more, but you can do so much powerful things with call to action. So that's a good one to get if you don't have that one. Horizon, man, you can do some really cool stuff with the Horizon. I was helping someone yesterday create a mobile layout with horizontal scrolling and a gallery. Man, Horizon was the perfect UI on mobile because you don't want to take up tons of space, but you can still access the content by scrolling horizontally. I think Horizon is great, especially on mobile layouts. Okay, it's really cool. Seams is a fun one. Obviously, Photo Pro is a great time to get Photo Pro. Probably one of the best gallery stacks out there. So check that out. Pen. It's free. If you don't already have Pen, definitely get Pen. Pen is definitely a great one. Pi, super powerful form stuff there. There's my free server info I was talking about earlier today. Font Pro, great way of importing your own custom fonts and managing custom fonts throughout a site. I just started version 2 of that. Working on that a little bit. So there we go. All right, that's about it. If you don't have any of those, check those out. Some good ones there. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that. So again, 41% off today only for people that watch this live stream. B-Day 41. James, you're having issues with screens, post on the community, or we can chat on Friday, and we'll help you out. So cool. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. And go out there and make something great and share it on Weaverspace so we can all see it, and we can all get inspiration from what you're building, no matter if you think it's beautiful or not. I know a lot of times, we create something and we probably don't think it's the best, and we're like, no one's going to want to see this, but I bet you everybody would want to see it. So yeah, definitely check it out. Share. People love learning from other people. So please go ahead and share what you're doing on the community. If you do something that you're proud of yourself, go ahead and post it. We'll give you a thumbs up, a little pat on the back, and hey, other people get to learn too. They get inspiration on what you're building, what stacks you're using, and how you're doing it, what swatches you're using, how you're building it, and all that jazz. So we'll see you guys on Friday. Take care. If we don't see you on Friday at the Hangouts, we'll see you next week on the live stream. Take care, everyone. Bye.